Hey, I'm fucking bored as shit, and I don't want to write my paper. So I'm gonna procrastinate and do a tier list on mixed martial arts because I have nothing better to do. And I'm I kind of feel like being a little goofy, silly person, and and potentially cause a scuffle because nothing gets people madder than a UFC fighter tier list for some reason. You know you're gonna get into a really bad argument on Twitter if you get into a conversation with somebody who has a mixed martial artist as their profile picture. You should never talk to them because you're just gonna get into an endless feedback loop of fighting. Which is a real shame, you know? Gone are the days of talking with respect about your favorite fighters. Actually, I don't think those days ever happened, but Um, yeah, so looking at the list, we have Ngannou, who's no longer in the UFC, Cruz, Barboza, Jones, Aldo, McDonald, Cejudo, McGregor. I think that's Miocic. I think. That's Woodley, Dillashaw, Weidman? Yeah, that's Weidman. Overeem, Silva, Pettis, Garbrandt, Holloway, Gustafson, Cerrone, Nunez, CM Punk, Rafael dos Anjos, Holly Holmes, Adesanya, Masvidal, Gaethje, GSP, Georges St. Pierre, Habib, Usman, Lawler, Costa, Cyborg, and that's just a UFC event. Um, Diaz, Whitaker, Lewis. Who the hell is that? That's Till, Ferguson, Cormier, and Romero, which is a pretty good list. A bit on the well-known side. I personally, would have liked some no-namers like who's my favorite no-namer? Andre Fili. See Andre Fili on a UFC card, you know it's gonna be a good fight. That man produces bangers. He's just a really fun fighter as well. Oh, excuse me. Um, yeah, I think I'm gonna rate them on how entertaining they are because that's quite the criteria. Here, I'll just do that. There we go. Oh, my little guy is blocking everything. Make that smaller. Yeah, put that in the corner. I'll put it up here. There we go. All right. Yeah, I think I'm gonna rank them based on how entertaining they are because that's such a non-offensive. Actually, that is quite offensive. There's nothing worse than being boring. But let's just start. Ngannou. Actually, what should I rate them on? I'll just rate them on how good they are, or how much I like them, because that is just my opinion. So Francis Ngannou. You know, I'm gonna keep it real. I wasn't too hot on Ngannou when he was in the UFC. Um, I thought he was just a funny fighter because the clip of him windmilling Rosenstruik into oblivion is so funny because Rosenstruik gets like three counters off, not landing with any power, but he gets three counters off, and God just does not care, and he just goes straight through him. One of the funniest clips I've ever seen. And then he just demolished Miocic, which is impressive. And then here's when he became like an actual goat, beating Gon when he was pressured by the UFC to take the contract despite having his knee torn, and he caught the dub. Oh, give me a sec. Okay. All right, back to what I was saying. Yeah, and then his discussion with fighter pay and how it's a big issue, alongside the fact that he just beat Ngannou, or not, yeah, Ngannou just beat Ngannou. He just beat Fury in boxing. Really shows that he is just one of the best. He's a great figurehead for the sport as well. So I'm putting him in GOAT status because for all the reasons I just said, but mainly due to the fact that he's such a big advocate for proper fighter pay and getting fighters benefits, very selfless, and proving that boxing ain't shit. Nah, he's just a very good exception. It's because Fury came in and underestimated him. And he just has such a legendary story, you know, going from the sand mines of Cameroon, living on the streets in Paris, to becoming the heavyweight champion and arguably beating the greatest heavyweight of all time. Or the best heavyweight right now. So, he's a GOAT. Dominic Cruz. A lot of people consider him the bantamweight GOAT. And... I'll judge him on the fights I've seen, which are the Dillashaw fight, where he got his belt back, his fight with Casey Kenny, which basically retired Casey Kenny, and his fight with Pedro Munoz, Casey Kenny, and Marlon Vera are the fights I've seen of Dominic Cruz, as well as the annihilation of him versus Cody Garbrandt. But have I taken to his commentating do I take his commentating in as well? I'm going to take his commentating into effect. Or I'm going to consider it when rating him. He is so unique. His style is so unique. I mean, that's the reason why his knees were blown out for half his career, but it's really fun to watch. It's not the most exciting because you're never really thinking about, like, is Dominic Cruz going to get a finish? It's always, is he going to survive to the bell, and how is he going to win? Which was really nice to see against Pedro Munoz, because you have the hard-headed Pedro Munoz stunning him in the first, and then he comes back strong. You get to see his fancy footwork on display, coming up clutch. Against Marlon Vera, that's kind of the same until he gets absolutely clapped in the fourth. And just a great performance against Casey Kenny. He's a really fun fighter to watch, but he lacks that, like, he lacks the, Since he lacks the power to finish a fight, and he doesn't have that reputation, it's kind of boring to watch a Dominic Cruz performance. I think he is well beloved between hardcore fans due to the fact that his style is so interesting. So for that, I'll put him in very good. Actually, I'm going to put him in good because his commentary is so... He did give us such beautiful lines as Habib... McGregor's letting Habib hit him in the face to tire him out. Dear God. Oh, and then the Keith Peterson, he smells like booze and cigarettes. Ugh. A swell fella, that guy. No, the Cejudo fight. We'll get to Cejudo, but Edson Barboza. Oh my God, this man puts on absolute scorchers. Be that Shane Burgos or Sadiq Youssef, that guy cannot have a boring fight. Journeyman, super fun style. Everybody kind of knows about how to beat Sadiq or Edson Barboza. You know, you put him on the back foot, put him against the fence. He isn't the best on getting off of it. He circles, and then he'll either come at you with a flying knee or try and get you coming in on a wheel kick. But moving down to featherweight really helped Edson Barboza kind of have a career resurgence, basically. Because what was his last fight at lightweight? Because I know... What the fuck is going on? Because I know he came to the featherweight division versus Dan Ige. and it was a controversial loss, as all Dan Ige fights are, because he cannot for the life of him have a decisive win. He fought Paul Felder and lost a split. Yes. Like, I'm looking at his record. Okay, let's see. Comes to UFC, fights Mike Lulo, gets a leg kick TKO. Fights Anthony Njokuani for a fight of the night. Gets another fight fight of the night against Ross Pearson. Terry Adam KO, banger. Loses a TKO to punches as Jamie Varner. Beats Lucas Martin by KO. Beats Rafael Oliveira with leg kicks. Gets fight of the night with Danny Castillo. Submits Donald Cerrone, or gets submitted by Donald Cerrone. Beats Evan Dunham with a TKO. Oh, and then he wins against Bobby Green in a fun fight. Loses to Michael Johnson. This is kind of when he gets figured out. Win against Paul Felder in fight of the night. Lost to Tony Ferguson, which is a super fun fight. Really, I mean, that Ferguson unbeaten streak of like 12 fights is legendary. Win against Anthony Pettis. Win against Gilbert Melendez. Win against Beneil Dariush with the flying knee. Loses to Kevin Lee, fun fight. Loses to Habib, fun fight. Win against Dan Hooker, great fight. Win against lost to Justin Gaethje, fight of the night. Lost to Paul Felder, split decision, fun fight. Lost to Dan Ige, fun fight. Win against Makwan Amirkhani. I'm surprised he got a decision against Makwan Amirkhani because Makwan cannot perform past the first round. Scorcher with Shane Burgos. A loss to Giga Chikadze, which was another great fight. A loss to Bryce Mitchell, which I don't remember. And then a great fight against Billy Corn, or not even a great fight. He threw the flying knee, didn't he? Yeah, he did. That was that was pretty funny. Very reminiscent of the Dariush fight, in that it's just like, I'm getting pressured, flying knee. And Billy was really cool about it on Twitter. And then a decision win against Sadiq Youssef. So, in terms of entertainment, he is one of the most entertaining fighters of all time. He's had such longevity. KO artist, a mainstay in 2 divisions now. He is, in my opinion, a MMA GOAT. That man should... I mean, he already has that horrendous mural of him in Brazil, but, like, they need to make more of those. Equally as horrible. Oh, John Jones. Now, here's a controversial opinion. I think John Jones is recent John Jones. I'm going to say that. I will say recent John Jones is pretty bad. He just gets lulled into really slow, boring kickboxing fights, which he struggles with because he's not a kickboxer. And the cheating, like, it's real rough, man. He did have a good performance against Gon, but I don't know if this is another hot take, but first round finishes, in my opinion, I don't like them as, like, I don't like first round finishes. That's a hot take. That is a hot take. I'm not going to say apparently. That just is a hot take. Because with a first round finish, you get all this hype. You get to the fight, and it's like, oh, great. I paid $70 for 5 minutes of, or not even, like, a minute of action. Like, are you kidding me? Plus, you didn't really even get to see the fight. You don't see how their styles clash. You don't see how they react in the face of adversity, you know? There's a ton of factors about first-round KOs that I dislike. So, a first-round submission is better than a first-round KO because you at least get to see how they employ offensive grappling and the other person deploys their defensive grappling. But Gon is an unknown grappler, you know, like, he's pretty not good. And then he pulled out of the Stipe Miocic fight, and then he still wants to fight Stipe Miocic. You know, it's like, and he beat a bunch of aging veterans when he was coming up. A lot of people are like, oh, John Jones has such entertaining fights, how could you? What are you saying? He had, like, 2 entertaining fights. You know? Like, he hasn't had one since, man. His last entertaining fight was Cormier 2. Like, that's it. The Thiago Santos fight wasn't very entertaining, and he couldn't finish Noni Santos. The Dominic Reyes fight was entertaining in that it was competitive, but the actual action itself is... The Gon fight was entertaining for all minute 30, if. Like, his Gustafsson fights are fun. His Cormier fights are fun. And, yeah, he's... I'll put him in very good. He is fun. Good. He's just been losing steam, man. And given that this photo was taken recently, I'm going to judge him on his recent work. And I don't think it's good. Hot take. Oh, and you don't want to fight. You don't want to talk to Jon Jones fans on Twitter, man. They are as delusional as Jon Jones himself. Jose Aldo, on the other hand, what an absolute goat. Featherweight mainstay, the GOAT of the featherweight division until Volkanovski. That's a hot take again. Featherweight GOAT until, Holloway came up, and Holloway's just a stylistic nightmare for Aldo. Got 13-second KO by McGregor. Kind of sad they didn't give him the rematch. Came back against Jeremy Stevens and Marlon Moraes. No, Marlon Moraes was his bantamweight debut. And then he went on a tear at bantamweight. Like, an extremely impressive anti-wrestler and an absolutely lethal striker. Compensated with his hips giving out on him, essentially, by improving his boxing fundamentals. He boxed with, like, the Brazilian national team, and it really paid off. He was always been super fast, but, man. He also had a really competitive fight with Petr Yan for the championship, because at the time, it was seen as, like, they're giving Yan a layup with the aging Aldo. But Aldo put on a really good performance for the first, 2 rounds, and then he gassed, and then he got finished. And even then, after, Aldo fought... Who did he fight? He fought Marlon Vera, I remember, to a decision, on the main card of a fight night, which was absolutely shocking. That was fucked up. But he fought Marlon Vera, I remember that. Then he fought Pedro Munoz, I believe. Yeah, then Rob Font, and then he's lost to Merab, and then he retired. The Rob Font fight was super fun because it was just Rob Font winning the round until Aldo got a knockdown every single time. The Munoz fight was fun because Munoz is just a worse version of Aldo, I think. He's just a lot more limited on the feet. The Marlon Vera fight was fun because it was just Aldo absolutely dogging Vera. He's one of the greatest of all time. He puts on absolutely stunning performances. He puts on great fights. He is a technical wizard when it comes to anti-wrestling. How he cuts corners, how he feeds singles, how he prevents wrestlers from really continuing. And once he hits the mat, he just becomes a bat out of hell. An amazing fighter and truly one of the greatest of all time. Rory McDonald, Canadian legend. Until he found Jesus, and then he became very boring. He's had some fun fights. If we look at... Here, Rory McDonald. Rory McDonald. Yeah, he's had some fun fights. Let's pull it up. Lost to Carlos Condit was fun, yeah. Robbie Lawler fight was very fun. Oh, yeah, he just absolutely bullied Nate Diaz. That was super fun. I'm not going to let my bias come in the way. He is so boring lately since he found God. His heart hasn't been in it. But for what he did in that Robbie Lawler fight, he deserves very good, I think. He gave people absolute... he gave every iota of blood in him during that fight. And for that, I can't put him below good. He deserves it just for that fight, man. What a great guy, too. He's Canadian. I say, as I just said, I will not be biased because he's Canadian. Cejudo, though, is not Canadian. He's Mexican. American. I don't think he's the GOAT. Because he couldn't deal with the, all fours that Sterling kept doing. that situation happened. Sterling abuses the absolute hell out of that position. But if you can't do anything from there, like, really? Brother? You're not going to, like, I mean, you can grab a very common one was just grab the collar tie and punch them. You know? That's such a common, like, usage. Chandler did that to Oliveira when he wobbled him. He would just, when Oliveira was just bobbing his head back and forth, weaving when he got dropped, Chandler just tried to post on his head and swing. You could do that. You can spin to the back. Or even if you don't successfully spin to the back, you could probably get into the guard, you know? I think the fact that he lost to Sterling is such a big blemish because it's mainly how he lost. His fight against Marlon Moraes was super fun in that he it was such a great adaptation, but because he just first round he's getting smoked, second round he's like, all right boys, time to turn it up. Comes in, grabs the tie clinch, knees to hell, man, and puts him away. Dominic Cruz, sorry, you know, he figured out the puzzle. You know, catch him on when he takes the side door that he keeps doing. What else? His fight with Demetrius Johnson, although controversial, was a very entertaining fight. It was an entertaining one. I think Cejudo is very good. What stops him from being the GOAT is the fact Sterling lost and he didn't really defend. Those are the two main ones. He left early. McGregor, GOAT, because he did so much for the sport, and every time he goes into the cage, it's a celebration. No person in MMA has an aura like Conor, and no one ever will, because the UFC realized that they shouldn't give a fighter that much power, which is super sad. But yeah, Conor's a GOAT for how much he did for the sport. He's also just a fun fighter. Like, he hasn't had a boring fight. Although most of them are very short because of his casting. But he has had a lot of very entertaining fights. And the build-up to the fights are entertaining. Even if they're not morally right. Speaking of morally right, it is immoral to classify Stipe's language as English. Because, man, that dude is absolutely intelligible. But he's a fun fighter. I will never forget him making Verdum run like full sprint at him and then just booping him in the face and Verdum falling like a sack of potatoes. Hilarious. I will never forget Stipe Miocic getting caught by Overeem's like little jog into a straight and then almost getting submitted by a guillotine. I will never forget that. I will also never forget him making the observation that maybe Daniel Cormier doesn't like being hit to the body, despite there being so much evidence that he hates that. And it took him 3 rounds to figure it out. Like, he has given so many memorable MMA moments, but what stops him from being a GOAT is the fact that Fedor's the GOAT. He's just not the heavyweight GOAT in my eyes, because Fedor exists. I think Prime Fedor beats so many fighters, man. But hey, that's just me. I could see him being up there, but I also don't want to just fill up the GOAT category. Tyron Woodley, he's good. Bunch of really boring fights lately, but that's just because of how he is. Like, he kind of lost that spark. And then he went out with a bang against, actually decent, because of the Jake Paul fights. I just remembered. Oh, yeah, I can't. No, he ain't going above decent, man. That, oof, man. Yeah, Jake Paul. Yeah. I will say he gets a bad rap. He got a bad rap for his title reign because of the Damian Maia fight. He had fucking scorchers. The Darren Till fights. The Stephen Thompson fight. Won. And then he had 2 boring fights and everyone was like, oh, he's so boring. Man, he put on absolute bangers. Come on. Respect him in that, at least for that. Nate Quarry fight? Or was that Nate Marquardt? One of those two. That was a great fight. His fight with Robbie Lawler? That was a great fight. You know? Like, he has good performances. It's just been marred by a couple of bad ones, like any other fighter. I think he gets a real bad rap, which is kind of deserved because he lost to Jake Paul. But we ignore that. Dillashaw though hasn't lost to Jake Paul. Instead, he acts like him because he is a massive scumbag. So I kind of want to put him here because he's a massive douche, but he's also a fun fighter. Nah. He's a real bad person. I don't like him. The reason why I think he's a bad person is totally unbiased again. He gave TJ Grant a concussion, so he couldn't challenge for the title because he had a title shot. But then he got a concussion by TJ Dillashaw, and then TJ Dillashaw filled in the space. I won't forget that. And for that, he goes into dog shit tier. We could have had a bantamweight champion in TJ Grant for Canada, but then he got a concussion. Yeah, he got a concussion. Concussion. Was by TJ Grant. Or TJ Dillashaw. No, wait, what? Oh, am I stupid? He was a featherweight? I thought it was a bantamweight. Oh, damn, I am stupid. Gosh darn. No, wait, it must have been. Wait, TJ. Okay, never mind. But TJ Dillashaw did go very hard with a Japanese kickboxer for some reason. I remember that story. And the kickboxer was like, yo, bro, what the hell? I do remember that. He's an asshole for that. He's just a really bad gym partner. So I don't respect him. And his fights are okay. His Garbrandt fights were very fun. And, I was going to say something about another one of his fights. The Dominic Cruz fight was kind of boring. His fight with Sterling was just disappointing. His fight with Sandhagen was fun, but that's just because Sandhagen is fun. Chris Weidman, though, oh my lord, this man, he fights his heart out every single time he steps out into that octagon, but then he just gets starched every time. The Jacare Souza, the Yoel Romeros, the Luke Rockhold fight, it's the same story. He wins, and then he doesn't. Because he mixes it up well, you know? He uses kicks well. He uses punches well. He wrestles well. He mixes the martial arts. But then he just gets caught by power punches, and he gets wobbled and finished every time. He also lost. Jeez Louise, my English. Lost to Tavares, I think? Chris Weidman. Did he lose to Tavares? Or did he beat Tavares? Yeah, he lost to Tavares. So, yeah, this man is washed. Also, very funny, not funny, kind of tragic that the broken leg has come full circle with the Uriah Hall. Overeem. He is my heavyweight. He is one of my heavyweight goats. He is the longevity of the career and the hilarity of it is unmatched. From Ubereem, where his only weakness was his weak chin and massive ego and pride, to his Econoreem phase, where he just kept smashing like up-and-coming heavyweights and losing to the top-ranked guys. Like, he is such a weird fighter, and he has been in the game so long, and he's so fun, and he's just great. I love Overeem, man. And now he's serving in like the Dutch Parliament or something. And then when he retired, he fought Badr Hari in a pretty fun kickboxing match. Like, Overeem's longevity is something to be admired. Yeah. He's probably my favorite heavyweight fighter of all time. It's either him or Fedor. It's him, Fedor, or Crow Cop. But I think Overeem is probably my favorite due to just how funny he is. You see if you're paying attention, you start to see a pattern between my favorite fighters. They're funny. Ain't an easier way to get into my good races than being absolutely hilarious with your cage antics. Cause this boy, holy moly, his striking style is weird, especially in his later phase. He'd just take you down and smash you. Like, I love him so much. No one better. Overeem. Silva, though, I'm going to say GOAT because he's also absolutely hilarious. His boring fights are very funny. Like, if you take out the context of, like, the fact that it's, like, a competitive fight and it's supposed to be a competitive fight for a real world championship, his fights become hilarity. Like, the Damian Maia and Nick Diaz ones, if you watch it as, like, a piece of media and you take, like, the situation in, it is hilarious. I love it. Like, the middleweight GOAT is is having such trouble with people not doing anything. I find that very funny. And then he also has bangers with like Michael Bisping. So he's also just magic in the cage when he was around. I will say I think his competition was extremely lackluster, so it's hard to really keep him as a middleweight GOAT. But super fun. Absolutely smashed Forrest Griffin and gave us a great piece of media with Forrest Griffin's recounting of that fight. And I will be recounting Anthony Pettis' career of his constant ability to never win 2 fights in a row. Or 3 fights, or 2 fights, 3 fights in a row, I think, actually. He never wins 3 fights in a row. Yeah, he could never string together more than 3 wins. This man alternated losses like crazy. He is super fun, though. The Showtime kick off the cage against Benson Henderson. He lost to Clay Guida. What the hell? He's fun. Really weird fighter. Really unorthodox. Fun grappling. Really creative. Kind of lackluster in his performances because of that creativity. He's trying to go for wacky shit, and when he faces like traditional fighters, he kind of lacks in that department. Like Tony Ferguson and Nate Diaz just outlast him. I guess I say enduring fighters he struggles up against. Who else did he lose to though? Dustin Poirier, yeah. Tony Ferguson, yeah. Nate Diaz, yeah. Carlos Diego Ferreira, yeah. Clay Collard, yeah. Stevie Ray, yeah. Yeah, he's also just washed. Cody Garbrandt. This man is so funny. He's such a meathead. He's just a power puncher who's not been able to handle power getting thrown back. I think I can't put him in dog shit because of his performance against Cruz and how magical that was. Also, I just realized how funny this is. Having Dillashaw dog shit and Garbrandt indecent. But I think it's warranted because both of them are kind of douchebags, but Garbrandt at least is funnier than Dillashaw because this dude, he got the Rafael Sun Sao KO, and then against like not Brian Kelleher, he's fighting him. Who did he fight? Ricky Simone? I think he was fighting Ricky Simone or something. This dude kept going to the fence and crouching down. Garbrandt. You kept getting pushed to the fence, and he'd always duck and look for the gosh darn Rob Font. He kept getting pushed to the fence and kept ducking, looking for the exact same KO. And you're like, Cody, We've seen it once. You're not going to get it again. Every time he would get back to the fence, Rob Font would see it and say, I know what you're doing, man. And then he would just back up, and Cody would be like, fuck. And then he'd have to get off the fence. He did that so many times. It was so funny. And then the Kai Kata France, whenever Cody gets hurt, he does like, he skims across the fence, and it's so predictable. It's like when you like, it's like an Overwatch where you have to use projectiles and you have to lead when a character is running. It's like that whenever Cody Garbrandt runs along the fence. You have to lead your punches into where he's going, because he just runs in a consistent motion. You know, you just got to track him down. He does that every time, and it always fails. Like, brother, come on. Change your game, man. But the Dominic Cruz performance was absolutely legendary, and he's been in so many funny fights since. He has to go indecent. Max Holloway, GOAT. Never a boring fight with Max Holloway. Gave us so many cool moments. Teaching Ortega how to block mid-fight. Ricardo Lamas pointing to the center and swinging for the fences. Slipping, no-look slipping and returning against Calvin Kattar. The Calvin Kattar performance alone puts him in GOAT. And then his comeback in Volkanovski 2, like, oh, what an absolutely magical fighter. And there's never going to be another Holloway, because this man throws out punches like candy on Halloween. It is nuts what he does. Yeah, that's enough of me gushing over Holloway. Gustafsson, he's decent. Competitive fight with Jones. He's a fighter who fights to the level of his opposition, because he'll have a super competitive fight with John Jones. Alex Gustafsson. He'll have a super competitive fight with Jones, and then he'll also lose to Verdum. And then he'll lose to, like, Anthony Smith. You know? Like, his record is such, like, super controversial fight, loss to John Jones, win against Jimmy Manuwa, loses to Anthony Johnson, loses to Daniel Cormier, and another fight that was super close. Beats Jan Blachowicz in a split, beats Glover Teixeira. That was a great fight. Rematch against John Jones, fights Anthony Smith, loses. Like, man, he just blunders. He blunders is probably the best way to say it. He just makes mistakes sometimes, and they cost him. But he does fight to the level of his opponents. When the time comes, he does step up and absolutely, put on a great performance. He's done it twice. He'll probably, I feel like he'll be like 90 years old, and then the UFC will call him and be like, hey man, Jan Blachowicz, who's also 90, just lost an opponent in a title match. Can you come in here? Like, Jan Blachowicz versus Glover Teixeira, number 38, has fallen through. Glover, Alex, can you come in here? And then Alex will be like, say less. And then he'll come in, and then he'll put on a competitive fight and lose. Donald Cerrone, dog shit. He's racist. End of conversation. Amanda Nunes, she's good. I think any female fighter above 125 pounds or even 115 is bad. So, yeah. She just hits hard. The fact that she lost to Juliana Pena, though, woof, that's rough. But I will say, she beat Valentina Shevchenko twice. So, I will give her her dues. CM Punk, dog shit. He's just a social experiment. RDA, very good. I love RDA. Do not ask me his views, though, as most of these fighters. Because, man, this dude, he is, I've said this like 50 trillion times, he's like an old leather boot, Tough as nails, heart of iron, grit out the wazoo. Mixes together striking and wrestling well, grindy, puts on some fun fights, but also some boring ones. I think he would have probably beaten Conor McGregor. He's a really bad matchup for Conor. But yeah, I love him absolutely ragdolling Nate Diaz. That was a fun performance. Him submitting Neil Magny. He would really benefit from a 165-pound division too, because he has trouble cutting to 155, but he's too small for 170. I think the fact he's found success at 170 though goes to show that he is very good. Home. Dog shit. Simply because, not because of her skill or what she's done, because I am so sick of Holly Holm main events. Please stop. I do not care for Holly Holm. I don't want to see another Holly Holm main event. Please, I beg you. I don't want to see them. Why do you keep pushing them? I don't care. I don't care about Holly Holm versus Bueno Silva. It's such a bad fight. Why did that happen? Adesanya? He's very good. He had a bunch of entertaining fights, some boring ones. He's very fun to watch. In the Alex Pereira fight, the Kelvin Gastelum fight, the Whitaker fight. He became really boring since he's got the belt because he plays it a lot more safe. Actually, yeah, he's good. Yeah, he's good. Yeah. He's kind of... Actually, no, decent. He lost to Strickland. I can't forgive it. I cannot forgive him losing to Strickland. I refuse. He lost to Strickland, man. The man who's given Strickland the title is... he's blessed that he's not here with these fighters. My lord, man. Oof. Oh, he lost to Strickland. I can't forgive it. You can fight Kelvin Gastelum a million times for a million bangers, but one loss to Sean Strickland instantly dissolves all of that success. Jorge Masvidal. This tier. I'm gonna change it. Dog water. There we go. Dog water. No offense to dogs. Yeah, dog water. Yeah, he's just a bad person, and I hate his shtick. What else about Jorge? Yeah. I just haven't enjoyed a Jorge fight in a while. He's really fun at losing, though. He's really good at losing emphatically. Alright, decent then. You know what? I loved watching him getting KO'd by Usman. It was funny. He is also the very first UFC card I watched, so there's that too. Gaethje? Ooh, is it GOAT or very good? Ooh, I'm going to say very good because he doesn't have the accomplishments that these guys have. You know? Like, I think in maybe 2 years' time, Gaethje will be a GOAT. In terms of, like, MMA, at least on my MMA list here. Like, the KO against Poirier is phenomenal. I think that he is going to... Yeah, I think he's destined for greatness. It's just, unfortunately, not his time. Because Islam Makhachev and Khabib were around instead. He's super fun, though. Like, he puts on absolute bangers. Has never had a boring fight. Yeah, he's great. Love him. GSP? I'll put him in... Oh, God, I want to put him in GOAT. I want to so bad, but he's had some boring fights. Oh, it's so hard. I'm going to put him in GOAT because he's so good. Totally not my Canadian bias coming into play. I refuse to believe that. But he's had some entertaining fights. He does have them. Carlos Condit was such a great fight. It was such a good fight. But people forget it. Dan Hardy was a pretty fun fight too. BJ Penn fights were good. Matt Hughes. He puts on foot fights, I swear. He's also... the Michael Bisping one was great. You know, this just sounds like copium. I sound like a Gojo Satoru stan. Trying to reason why Gojo lost to Sukuna and why that doesn't matter. Yeah, I love him. Despite his boring flaws. My beautiful Canadian legend. Habib. Question is GOAT or very, very good. He got out the game early, which is, you know, valid. His dad died, you know. Yeah. I think, man, that last fight had so much behind it, so much drama with him breaking his toe. He got a disease or an infection or something from it too. His dad died, and he still came out and absolutely bulldozed Gaethje, which was phenomenal. Problem is that he came out super early and he fought very similar stylistic opponents in Poirier, Gaethje, and McGregor. I would have liked it more if he fought stronger grapplers, but they weren't around, unfortunately, during his time. I think Islam is going to surpass Habib in terms of greatest of all time at lightweight if he beats Oliveira for a second time and then beats Gaethje and then Sarukian, Gamero, you know? So yeah, it's just he's the biggest what if in MMA. Usman though, he's a goat. He cemented his GOAT status when he picked up the pace in his later career, or at the tail end of it, since the Jorge 2 fight, I say. He's really picked up steam. Because he was snoozeman for the first Jorge fight, because that was super boring, just a bunch of cage humping and toe stomping. Came out for the second fight, or no, the Gilbert Burns one was when he turned it around because he knocked out Gilbert Burns, and everyone was like, okay, maybe Usman is fun. And then he starched Masvidal in the second fight, and then the people were like, okay. And then he put on another banger with Covington, and then that's when like Usman's GOAT status was basically everyone was like, he's the next greatest of all time. He's in contention with Habib. Then Headshot Dead happened, and then he's no longer there. But super fun, entertaining, second best welterweight of all time. Phenomenal fighter. Usman really deserved it. Plus, absolute G stepping in on short notice, up a weight class against Hamzat. So he deserves to be up there. Robbie, GOAT. One of the most entertaining fighters of all time. Always brings it. Such tenacity. Kind of got lulled into a really weird game plan at the tail end of his career. But despite that, he's still my boy. Great success story. Reinvented himself coming back from Strikeforce into the UFC after getting cut a long time ago. Puts on bangers. Doesn't have a clanger. Gets the belt. Continues to have bangers in controversial fights. Specifically the Condit one. Loses to Woodley. Okay. Changes his style again to a more boring one, but he's still the Robbie Lawler we know and love since he got the Nico Price KO and retired into the sunset. God bless this man. He is a absolute icon in the welterweight division, and all swangers and bangers should look up to Robbie Lawler. Speaking of swanging and banging, Paulo Costa. He's good because his pre-fight antics are hilarious. The Vittori lead-up for the fight night was comedy gold. I love it. I loved it. Apart from the fact that he was a massive, I guess idiot. He's just big idiot. Just big meathead. Yeah, also a really fun style. Great to see somebody dig to the body. He's built like an action figure. His Luke Rockhold fight was also extremely funny. Yeah. He kind of got fraud checked by Adesanya, and he just can't he can't make weight, man. He should just go up to 205 at this point with his T-Rex arms. Chris Cyborg, though, he's good. She's good. Yeah, same as Nunes. Really fun fighter. Lack of competition, and I do not respect women's divisions above 115. This is an event, so I'm not ranking that. Is that Sean Strickland? Nate Diaz. He's okay. A lot of his fans are from when he beat McGregor, and he kind of gets gassed up. They're like, if there was no round limit, Nate Diaz would be the greatest fighter of all time. It's like, no, he got absolutely dog walked by RDA and Benson Henderson and Rory McDonald. You know, like maybe he's not as good as you think. He's just very fun. You know, that's mainly it. He's a very fun fighter. But he just doesn't have much to him. Nick Diaz, though, I'd put in very good. Robert Whittaker, very good. Not a GOAT. He's not a GOAT because he lost to Dricus du Plessis. In the same way that Adesanya lost to Strickland, he lost to Dricus du Plessis. How I get how we lost. Dricus did an amazing job researching Rob Whittaker's weaknesses, southpaw jabs, the wrestling. He did a really good job. Whittaker, oh my lord, I cannot forgive him for making Sean Strickland versus du Plessis an actual fight, and the one that I am getting in Toronto. This man gave us Dricus du Plessis versus Sean Strickland instead of Islam Makhachev versus Charles Oliveira. I cannot believe it. And for that, he is actually going to go to good. He recovers some points and he doesn't go into decent because he's a really nice guy and he's very funny and he plays Skyrim. Derek Lewis. Oh man, he's decent. Oh, I might put him into dog water. He's pretty funny guy, but he's been stinky lately. Not much else to say. This is Colby Covington. Dog water. I do not respect Colby. Simple as that. I don't respect him. I think he's so. He's just such lackadaisical company on his resume. Not lackadaisical. Such lazy. Not lazy. Just bad. Just straight bad. Bad resume. His best win is RDA and Hyung Sung Park or what's his name? Hyung Sung Kim? Stun Gun Kim? Dong Hyung Kim was his best win, in my opinion, for a while until the RDA win. And even then, like his best wins or losses, Like Gustafsson. And then he's also just annoying, so. Darren Till, dog water. Do I have to say any more? Bro, he gave du Plessis a platform. he was the one who started him on the path to give us this main event in Toronto. I can't forgive him. Tony, I love him. I love him so much. But he's good because he fell off a cliff. Oh, Tony time. CSO. It hurts. It hurts so much. Cormier, very good. I think he's one of the best. I'd probably put him above Stipe. He's just fun. It's fun seeing a big old lad ragdoll people. And Yoel, he's decent. He just has a bunch of boring fights. He has a bunch of boring fights. You don't remember his boring fights because you only see the highlights every time. Like, a good Jack Slack quote. A good Yoel Romero fight has happened after the fact. You don't watch good Yoel Romero fights in the moment. You'll see it on a clip on Twitter. Like, man, he's been oof. But yeah, so that's the list. A mix of entertainment, hilarity, and personality went into this list. Yeah. This is dog water tier, though. TJ Dillashaw, Donald Cerrone, CM Punk, Holly Holm, Colby Covington, and Darren Till. Yeesh. Man, that's a mix of... Oh, man. Yeah, this list is purely based on a lot of external factors other than the fighters themselves. You know what? I'm fine with it. I'm happy. I'm happy with my goats. I'm happy with this. Also, I keep looking at Usman and GSP and they look like friends in this photo. Or when they're side by side and it's really cute. Yeah, there. And then this is just an event. Oh, that's Weili Zhang. I put her as a GOAT because she's the best female fighter currently. Valentina Shevchenko, eat your heart out. Oh man, while I'm here on the topic of Weili Zhang, or Weili, Zhang Weili, man, She she is stuck in her sanda phase with, how do I pronounce sanda? What are the annotations? Sanshu. Kickboxing. How do I pronounce it? San, sanda, sanda, or shu, sanshu, 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 sanshu. Man, I need to practice my Chinese. It's been stinky lately. But Sanshu, she's stuck in that phase because she comes out with these like pretty useless sidekicks, and I'm scared that she's gonna throw a sidekick and get, sparked. I'm real scared about that. But she's really evolved her game with training with Cejudo. And there's this really good Twitter account where it's like Ghost, but spelt with leet speak, with like ones instead of I's and H's and zeros instead of O's. But yeah, he has a really good thread because he trained with, or gave, or did studies for Zhang for the Lemos fight. But yeah, she's really evolved her game into becoming a very strong grappler, which is very good because she just bullies people with her size and muscle. And she's just swang and bang, confident, strong. That cross that she used to drop Lemos was thunderous. It sounded like a gunshot. I loved it. But yeah, that's my list, and that's my stream, because I think I procrastinated enough, and I will finish my report. I might stream again later. Who knows? Maybe I'm probably going to stream the Leon Edwards Covington watch along, because I hate Covington, as you can see by me putting him in dog water. So I'm going to probably stream that and then cry when Covington wins. So stay aware of that if you want to see my tears stream down my cheeks. And I'm going to be slapping the cheeks of my research paper. So, ciao. Smooches. Ha ha ha. That's cringe. But that's good. See that meme where it's like, where it's the Wreck-It Ralph? Here, let me see if I can whip it up. Oh. Let me see if I can whip it up. Here. YouTube.com. Wreck-It Ralph cringe. Here, let me see. I'm just gonna show the audio. Oh, wrong one. I'm cringe, and that's based.
Oh my god. The dodgeball thing, dude?
Everybody here is cringe. No. Only me.
Truly a good scene.
I'm cringe. And that's based. I'll never be baked, and that's not cringe.
The mic quality sells it.
There's no one as rather blue than me.
Anyways, so that is my.
Yeah.
Sorry, I have trash taste on the side. Yeah, that's just my inspiration for life. Yeah, that's my inspiration for life. And that's why I kiss as my takeaway. And also because I don't know what else to do for it. Yeah. See you later, nerds. Ha 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 ha.